Well, hello. Good evening. Happy Monday to you all. Welcome to September. I don't think we've the first podcast of September, which is exciting. Number 112. I hope I've got that right. Of the Honourable Podcast is on its way, which is very exciting. You know the drill by now. I will busy myself with just trying to share this on the old Facebook while we get going. But in the meantime, I can show you the wonders of who we've got on in a tickle. Cop a load of this. There they are. Steve Sanders, Darren Huckerby, Maddie Mackenzie, all willing, ready and able. I am definitely putting words in my mouth there, but I'm sure they are. So that's lovely. We've obviously got some nice things to talk about, such as winning football matches. It's like Norwich had never been away, isn't it? So that's all grand. If you are watching live, we've actually started early, having put the timing late. Let's not delve into the semantics of it all. If there's any questions you want to ask, topics, whatever, get them in, especially as we've got Hucks on, obviously. So anything you want to ask, post a comment. Although I don't think we get to always see the ones on Twitter, which is a shame. But I don't know the way around that, to be honest. So if you're watching this on Twitter, maybe you can just dip onto YouTube or Facebook, and then those comments do definitely come through. So yeah, please do get in anything that you want to ask, and we will endeavour to answer those at set points. Oh, why has it done that? That's a bit annoying. I'm going to end up sharing this twice on groups. So yeah, do that. As I said, it should be lots of fun, really. What is there to complain about? Well, it's Norwich City. I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to complain about. Well, we'll address all those. Obviously, we can catch up on what happened with the transfer window, which wasn't a lot, and wrap that up. There are a couple of pieces on The Athletic if you wish to read those as well. Obviously not now because we're about to do the podcast, but just make a note, read them afterwards. That would all be grand. Right, I think they are all shared. So I'll just put them there. I'm sorry if it's twice in a group, guys. There we go. More than enough. How exciting. I reckon we get straight into it because no one wants to hear me mumbling along. And that's only 2.5 minutes. So I'm obviously getting much quicker at it. Right. Let's do it. Enjoy the pod. See you on the other side. Get your comments and questions in. We'll go through what we can. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Do it. Do it. Cue intro music. Hello all and welcome to edition 112 of On The Ball, the Norwich City podcast that turned down a late loan bid from TalkSport for NCFC numbers on deadline day. The move just didn't add up. Also, we don't own Steve. I'm Michael Bailey. I cover the Canaries for The Athletic, and I hope this finds you safe and well. On the way, Dino's 5 alive. Just how quietly can you close a window? And time for a Burnley bundle. We will work through all that and more with our guests this fine evening. They are Norwich numberwang chief at NCFC Numbers, also known as our very own, you've heard him mentioned earlier, Steve Sanders.
Hello, Michael.
We have former Norwich City winger, academy coach, bona fide club legend, and friend of the podcast, Mr. Darren Huckerby.
Good afternoon, evening, everyone.
And finally, but not most leastly, Along Come Norwich and Barclay flag purveyor. It is Maddie Mackenzie.
Hello, everybody. I can't believe you introduced me after Hucks. That's something to live up to.
There you go. Well, it's no particular order. So it's everyone is equal on this podcast. I think we've definitely lived by that through the. Have we, Steve, lived by that through the? No, maybe not. Anyway, carry on. How are we doing? I hope everyone's all well. I hope you're all out there are well. Those who are great cohesive start from me. I'm making perfect sense. Hope everyone out there is doing well. Hope you guys joining me here are well too. Steve, how are you?
I'm very well. It's the first I've heard that you turned down a bid from TalkSport for me. I've been sitting on loads of inflammatory opinions for years that I could have wheeled out on there, but I guess I'll never get to use them now, unless I could just start peddling them on this podcast instead, right?
Well, I didn't want your head to be turned, you see, in the final weeks of the window, and start putting in demands.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Just loads and loads of money. That's what I'm motivated by. So yeah.
Well, some would probably be a start, to be honest.
Yeah, any money at all. Any offers that anyone wants to make. Yes, I'm open to them.
But you have to go through us first, just to make that clear.
Have to go through Michael. Michael's my agent. Yeah.
It's a brutal world, the world of Norwich City podcasting. I think we can all attest to that. Mr. Darren Huckerby, I might refer to you with all three of those words together tonight, but I might not. How are you doing?
Very well, yeah, very well. Positive few weeks, so let's hope it continues.
Love it. Your beard's looking particularly trim. Is that your trophy cabinet behind you?
No, just where I keep my hat-trick balls.
Look at those.
So, if someone wants to break into my house, it's in the dining room.
Well, let's not talk that up.
How many are there? How many hat-trick balls are there? Can I ask out of interest?
6.
6. Yeah, but did you ever get them in back-to-back games?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
We got ourselves a Haaland.
Yeah, I was the last person to do it at Man City. I think I scored 3 against Forest last time they played in the Premier League. So I was the last person to score 3 for Man City against Forest.
Way.
Well, look, we basically got Erling Haaland off of the early 2000s on the podcast there, really, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, I won't go that far, but I'm not 6'4" and good in the air. So
I mean, I've just assumed someone put Erling Haaland together in a lab, to be honest, and came up with this sort of football goal thing.
Machine.
But we don't need to talk about him because we're not in the Premier League. And could you imagine him coming up against Grant Hanley and whoever?
I have imagined that actually a little bit, actually.
Common feature of all of our nightmares at the moment, isn't it?
Well, maybe, but we don't need to worry about it, Maddie. How are you?
Knackered, to be perfectly honest.
Good.
Today was my first day of teacher training. So, yeah, might be a bit, behind the rest of you. So I hope all of you have got your A game on because I am half asleep. Not that I'm not fully committed. Fully committed, well in Norwich mode.
Let's just not talk about percentages. What have you got a board behind? Is that a Norwich board behind you? Is that? It's just yellow.
I don't think there's anything interesting behind me. No, that's just bad luck. We moved in when I was 5 and the walls were yellow, and I wasn't even a Norwich fan and hated football. So, well, apparently so, because now I'm a Norwich fan. So it's just stayed that way forever.
It's just penetrated your soul, you see, over all those years.
Sort of like subconscious messaging.
This is the way to do it. Well, loads of luck with the teacher training. My wife is a primary school teacher, so I can fully appreciate if you just fall asleep halfway through the podcast. I will understand. Right. Well, in that case, I reckon we should crack on with this week's headline act. Well, Norwich City were bottom of the table after 3 games, and they've gone from that to top of the tree 5 games later. Now, admittedly, they're not top now because Sheffield United won at Hull, but still, healthy is as healthy does, which is definitely a saying that I might have made up. And Steve, not looking so bad, is it, for Norwich City back in the Championship, doing what they do? Typical Norwich, all that sort of stuff. What caught your eye during the week and the wonderful results and victories against Birmingham and Coventry?
I don't know, sort of stumped me straight away with that question because nothing in particular caught my eye. It's just like you say, kind of Norwich City doing what they do at this level. I mean, they've already, in the space of 3 weeks, accrued the same number of league wins that they got in the entirety of last season. I don't know where we are in the cycle, whether we're at the start of the next cycle or whether we're kind of halfway round. But it sort of feels like after a dodgy first few weeks where I think we were genuinely worried whether they could replicate what they've done the last 2 times, they've kind of clicked into gear in the way that they usually do. I guess it felt like they won the 2 games in very different ways. I think, to be honest, although the Birmingham game was tighter, they were probably the weaker of the 2 teams that we faced. I thought they looked terrible, whereas I thought Coventry had something a little bit about them. But I think there's a big difference between having Pukki in the team and not having Pukki in the team. And I think the way that they played on Saturday reminded me a little bit more of how they were under Daniel Farke, particularly maybe the first goal that probably stood out and the way that Nunez slipped him through. But then equally, you know, they had that ability to win ugly, if you like, on Tuesday in what wasn't a great match, and, you know, and winning it late as well. So, I mean, yeah, 5 wins in a row. I almost feel like I'm not excited enough about that, but you really can't argue with it. I think it's probably fair to say that there has been definitely fair to say there has been a massive drop off in terms of the quality that we were facing last season. It was like edge of a cliff kind of drop off. But I think it feels like with the teams we've got coming up, the real challenge starts now. But they've beaten what's been put in front of them. You can't ask any more than that, as the cliche goes.
This is true. I mean, Hucks, what do you make of the atmosphere? Because I think the way we've kind of started this podcast is a little bit symptomatic, I think, of what it's just like being at Carrow Road, which is kind of, we've done all this, you know, just sort of winning games. The opposition don't seem to be up to that much, certainly compared to what Norwich are capable of. So I don't know. It feels a bit, it's not exactly the same as 18-19 where it's all so exciting and everything.
No, I think it's a different style of football. But, you know, the fans will, if you win games, fans get behind the team. And, you know, I thought Coventry fans were unbelievable considering I thought Coventry were awful, if I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think they had anything about them. Truthfully, I was watching a few Cov games like I've obviously been an ex-player there. I didn't think they had any. They didn't know how they were going to play, what they were trying to do. I thought Coventry were awful, and I thought Birmingham were awful. In fact, I think every team apart from Sunderland this season have been bang average, bang average. So that's a positive for me because we played Huddersfield, who got in the playoffs. We played Millwall, who just finished outside the playoffs, and literally, I've not seen even a half decent team. Apart from Sunderland, I thought Sunderland played really well against us. We was a bit off it, but if that's going to be the level of the quality game in, game out, with our squad, I'm not saying it's going to be a walk in the park because you've still got to dig in and you've still got to be resilient like we've shown. But to be able to bring 5 players off the bench that are probably better than every player in the other people's teams, it's a massive, massive plus. It's a big advantage, just like it was for last season in the Premier League, where, you know, Man City could bring 5 players on the same quality as the ones that are, you know, are coming off, and that's what we're doing. And, you know, teams won't be able to live with that.
It's a really interesting dynamic change now because you can bring 5 players off that. You know, that is like 45% of your starting 11 on your team. You can literally go, right, we're going to stop playing like that now. We can do this. So I think that's a dramatic shift, really. I know we've had it before with COVID, but it feels like maybe it's just taken hold now. I can't remember which of the 2 games. I think it was the Birmingham game where I basically said in my video verdict, right, there's no way this Norwich team should finish outside the top 6 because I just don't think there's enough teams that should finish above them. I honestly believe that. Now, that doesn't mean that they're definitely going up or anything daft, bearing in mind we're 8 games in, because, you know, there are still teams in. It doesn't take much for 2 teams to finish above you, and then you're in the playoffs, and then God knows what will happen. But it does feel like that. And even the games where Norwich, I maintain they should never have lost to Cardiff. I thought Cardiff were woeful, and, you know, Norwich should have been out of sight before Hull even had a sniff of Norwich's goal, realistically. And then if we just reflect on the Birmingham game briefly, Maddie, that felt like that game was pretty much all about Anil Hernandez. Now, I have written a piece on The Athletic. You can read that. But also, it wasn't just the atmosphere and what he did at St Andrews, but it was the reaction he then got at Carrow Road against Coventry when he was warming up and came on the pitch. I mean, the guy is like a Norwich City supporters magnet at the moment.
I think he became sort of what my good mate John Punt would say, a Carl Lafferty player. Sort of when he wasn't in the team last season and he went out on loan, everyone was like, oh man, imagine if Anil Hernandez was here, you know, what would he be doing? What would he be offering that, you know, Poeta wouldn't be offering? And now he's here and he's kind of backing that up. Would he do it in the Premier League? Probably not, but it doesn't matter because right now he is here and he is doing it. And I was at Birmingham on Tuesday, you know, luckily. So, and it was a stodgy game. It was a bad, stodgy game, as I'm sure you can appreciate. You know, we were standing there and for 90 of the 97 minutes, you were just thinking, my goodness, you know, how long until I can get on the coach and go home? And Yeah, Anil Hernandez made the trip worth it. But I think something that people haven't noticed is that when he ran over to celebrate, he started tapping the wrong shoulder. He got completely mixed up about where his tattoo was. So he was going, oh, yeah. Sort of looked down and went, oh, yeah. And it's just, it's that kind of ridiculous thing that he just gets so caught up in the moment and just, his shirt was off before the ball was at the back of the net. He just loves it. And he's been getting... people have been enjoying his warm-ups for the whole season because as soon as he got his tattoo out that first time against Wigan or whenever it was, that's all the encouragement the Snake Pit needed, and the Snake Pit doesn't need much encouragement. So as soon as they got that, at any time he walks anywhere near them, they're going to be shouting his name, and that was probably the loudest Carrow Road was on Saturday because people just love the bloke. And I don't know if you've seen his TikToks recently, but my God, that is a man that loves Norwich and just loves football and he's just happy to be back. And off the Premier League, where it looked like some of our players didn't necessarily want to be there too much, that's all people want. A player that just wants to be here and loves it and just appreciates what he's got.
Quite an interesting dynamic, Hucks, because that, like at the end of the Birmingham game, some of his teammates were literally pushing him towards the crowd because they knew what the Norwich fans and how they would react to that. I noticed when he was warming up, obviously he's alongside Ben Gibson coming out for warm up. No one really, other than gives polite applause to Ben Gibson, but he then looks behind him at O'Neill sort of with a smile because he can hear what's going on. I mean, I suppose it must be weird as a teammate when I guess someone has that sort of is generating that feeling across the supporter base.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I'm still critical of him, if I'm going to be brutally honest. 95% of his game is very, very good. He puts teams on the back foot. He's aggressive the way he plays. He's direct. Every defender who plays against him has a hard time. But he still doesn't do enough with the ball when he's got the ball. For me, I said it on Twitter the other day, people having a go. He gets one goal every 10 games. That's his career. That's his career stats. He gets two assists every 10 games. For all his good play and all the work he does and his directness and his enthusiasm, he needs to have a bit more in product. He's got to play in this team that's going to create a lot of chances. He's got to do a little bit more. But like I said, 95% of his game is very, very good. But he's just got tied up when he gets in that final area. Because if he did that, he's hard to stop. Because he's quicker, he's stronger than everybody he's playing against. But that's that final ball and that final decision. That's a really important bit. It's not the good stuff he does. He does really, really well. It's the stuff at the end where it's different between a goal or a cross going over and no one getting to it. It's very, especially now you've got Sargent where you can put balls in the box. It's different with Pukki because Pukki is really, you have to pull the ball back to him in a perfect area for him to score. But now with Sargent or whoever's Hugo's on there, you can just put the ball in the box sometimes and let them get on the end of it. So he's done great. We love his enthusiasm. But as a wide player who played in the exact same position, he's got to do a little bit more, in my opinion.
That's the professional footballer wanting to get the best out of everyone. Well, so, Steve, we're going to say.
Try not to be negative, but that's how I feel. I think he's a breath of fresh air. He wants to be here, and the fans love him. But at the end of the day, it's about goals and assists. It's always been about that.
I mean, I think it's fair to say objectively he's probably not as good a footballer as Todd Cantwell is, and yet the impact he had obviously on Tuesday, but I thought on Saturday as well. The game on Saturday was a weird second half. Like the intensity completely dropped in the second half, and I thought, to be honest, we were really quite bad for the first half an hour of that second half. But Coventry just didn't have enough really to trouble us, so it didn't really matter. But you could sense it in the crowd, you could sense it amongst the players, like we've got 2-0, we've got this, it's fine. So it kind of sat back. I think slightly worrying trend growing there actually, and that's happened 3 times I've been up 2-0 this season. First time was Birmingham in the cup, they obviously scraped through having conceded 2. Huddersfield they nearly threw away, and obviously were fine on Saturday in the end, but didn't play particularly well. But I think when Smith brought the subs on, of which Anil was one, it did give the team a bit of a lift. And I think that was partly because the crowd got a lift, partly because Onel's one of those players who just will pick the ball up and run with it. And I think we've probably said it on this pod already this season, but he feels like somebody that's just going to have that role this season. He might get the odd start. I think Smith probably recognises he has better footballers in that position. But I think somebody who can come on maybe when you need a goal, maybe when the team just needs a lift for the last 20 minutes and kind of just bring that enthusiasm. He's going to be a really useful squad player, it feels like, this season. And I think also worth noting as well, he looks much better now than he has done in a Norwich shirt for some time, like probably since the year we were promoted under Farker the first time around.
He did seem to go through this weird period once Norwich got promoted and afterwards where he seemed to put on a load of muscle mass and then would just spend a lot of time sort of shielding people from the ball. And that was kind of what he did. He sort of shield people from the ball. And there was no like taking anyone on or running with the ball or doing anything kind of progressive, really. It was like he was sort of being a dumber.
Do you think that's coaching? Do you think that's like? Do you think he's been coached differently now and being told, just do what you get at and run at defenders?
Again, it was sort of in the piece I wrote, and I spoke to Anil about it. And I think I get the impression there was a lot being made of how Norwich had to be physically stronger. I think he seems like quite an enthusiastic guy. He probably went, right, I better put a shed load of muscle mass on. And I think he did it. And then it's like his whole game kind of changed around it. So he's just sort of, it certainly looks a bit leaner and quicker and more agile now. And that's all that he agreed with as well. So, I mean, he does, after a season where no supporter really seemed to like anyone that was playing for the club, it is a bit of a refresh that we're in the position where at least, a few of them are starting to pick up a bit of favour. I did see an interesting post as well on Twitter at some point today, sort of suggesting that someone like Milot Rashica won't take as many risks with the ball as Anel does, and that's maybe why he doesn't get the same kind of end product question marks as Anel, which I don't think is true. I think he does, and B, like Hucks says, you fling a ball in and it's going above everyone's head, which does happen with Anel, then that's not ideal, whatever you're trying to do. But also Anel's quite a very honest professional as well. I think he knows that he's sort of maybe not producing those things.
I think the big difference between the fans can tell, Ono looks like he wants to play. He looks like he's happy and buzzing to get on the pitch, where whatever role it is, he's happy to do it. Sometimes Rashica looked like he didn't want to be out there. If we're going to be brutally honest, and his game looked that way. He looked like he didn't want to be here. Ono does want to be here, and you can see that straight away from the way he comes, the way he warms up, to when he first gets the ball, what he tries to do. So, I think that's the biggest difference. Fans aren't daft; they can see players that want to play for the club. There's been plenty of players over the years who probably haven't been technically very good, but they'll run for a brick wall for you, and fans appreciate that.
Have you had that playing as well, Hucks, where it's not so much maybe not even wanting to be there, but it's just your confidence is at this point where you carry fear. I mean, I suppose it's just low confidence, but where you carry like a weight, so you just know freedom with what you're trying to do on the pitch.
Yeah, you get certain times in your career, but if you're a wide man, for instance, Rashica or Onel or Jolis or whoever's playing out there, the only way you do that is by being brave enough to get the ball and keep going at your man until you get past that little bit of confidence. Rashica looks like he's devoid of all. It's like you don't know how to beat people, don't know how to cross the ball. But I know sometimes it happens, but we've gone from a player that we thought was going to keep us in the Premier League to a player that don't get in the Premier League in a Championships, match day squad. So that's a big drop off, and it's not like we paid 20 quid for him. We paid £10 million. So that's a bit of a concerning issue. That's later on down the line, because if you don't get back in the squad, then do you loan him out? Do you try and sell him? Who's going to want to buy him? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
It's a lot of £20 notes in £9 million for sure, or Freddos for those who listen to the TIFO podcast. Maddie, we had Teemu Pukki and Josh Sargent start after a little period where we were like, thank goodness Josh is starting in a central role. Now he looks like a good player. Quickly, he got shifted back out wide. It's not quite that straightforward, obviously, but it looked fluid. And actually watching it back, I mean, still, and obviously we've got to take into account the level here. Josh looks perfectly fine and happy coming in off the wing, I thought.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were worried that he was starting on the right on Saturday. It was a case of, oh my goodness, is this going to destroy his confidence? But I think you've had a role reversal there. You have Teemu Pukki. He's normally the super confident one. He knows he can step onto the pitch and score as many as he wants. But I think he's looked mentally fatigued for the last few months. I was having a discussion the other day with someone about how since that Ericsson incident at the Euros, he's looked kind of as if he's somewhere else when he's on the pitch. And I mean, he was having a difficult time of it last season anyway, because he wasn't getting the service. He wasn't having the players around him who were putting the balls in that he needs. So he was looking almost bored at times, and I don't think you could blame him for that. But this season, obviously, it must be, no striker wants to sit on the bench and watch another striker in their position outscore them. So he must have been buzzing to get back on, and it was brilliant that he got the goal. And then, almost immediately after, Josh Sargent goes, "Oh goodness, I don't want to be dropped. I better get one too." So he's definitely someone who's benefiting from a real boost in confidence. And I don't think, did anyone see this really? You had some, some jokes saying, "Oh, Josh Sargent, top scorer in the Championship this season, 25 goals," but no one
jokes?
really
How
expected
dare
it.
you? Predictions.
Well, maybe people were serious. I don't know, but I don't think anyone honestly would have put solid money on it, because he just looked like a player who was scared on the ball sometimes. But there were flashes in that Premier League season of a potential link up between Pukki and Sargent. It looked like it could click if the confidence issues and if the squad behind them were fixed. And I think it's something that could work. I think he has to find a way to get them both in, because now that Pukki has that goal, hopefully he'll be able to go on, and hopefully he'll be able to click right back into his goal scoring mindset. So if he can find a way to have the two of them on the pitch, that's a strike force that rivals anybody in this league and rivals a few Premier League teams as well. So I can't believe that Josh Sargent is doing well, but you wouldn't wish it for any other player really. So and he's got the World Cup coming up as well, hasn't he? He's got that on his mind. So he's going to want to play, and he's going to be desperate to impress. So having a player like that who has that carrot at the end of the rod dangling for him, you've got to find a way to keep him in and, keep him getting service, because the more he has that to aim for, the better he's going to get, I reckon.
I thought Pukki was so good on Saturday as well. Like, for somebody that hasn't scored all season, for somebody that hasn't started the last few games, he looked so sharp. I mean, that second, obviously the first goal he took really well. It was kind of like a classic Pukki goal, but that second goal as well, that just his involvement in that move, obviously Ramsey did brilliantly. That that was straight out of the Farker playbook, that goal. But I just thought his link-up play was really excellent with Sargent and with others, and I completely agree with Maddie. I think going forward, the certainly at the moment, the plan for Smith has to be, how do I fit these two guys in the team right now?
Here. Well said. Right. In that case, I reckon we can move on swiftly, because we're not going to talk much more about Josh Sargent, because he's dominating the airwaves until he gets his hat trick, whenever that is. Let us wrap up our opening half of the podcast with our latest list of things we are not going to talk about. So let's rattle through these. The things we are not going to talk about, which I think we've decided in recent weeks is something I dominate with all the things I don't want to talk about.
Like the whole podcast.
Oh, well.
In a good way, though, right? In a good way.
This is because I turned down talks.
Not at all, Steve.
Yeah, I get it. Well, yeah, things we're not going to talk about. We're not going to talk about Coventry's disallowed goal, because, I couldn't really get my head around it initially, and then I posted a couple of things on Twitter, and then everyone sort of probably explained it to me in the end. So basically, Tyler Walker was on the goal line and probably was interfering with Tim Krul and offside, probably. But Hucks, what did you think?
I thought it was a good goal, if I'm going to be honest. I don't know what he challenged the goalkeeper. I don't know what you're expecting the centre forward to do. What's he meant to do? Jump off the pitch?
No, but you're right, though. In theory, if he had jumped into the goal before the shot was taken, the goal would have stood.
Yeah, I don't. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, because they were rubbish. But I think it was a legitimate goal. I'd have been, please wait, if it had been in the Premier League, it'd have been VAR'd off, wouldn't it? But it's just a shame for them, because I thought their fans deserved to see a goal. I thought they were excellent. And, obviously they weren't good enough in general play for the rest of the game. So
we're not going to talk about it, obviously. But do you worry a little bit for Coventry this year, Hucks? I mean, I kind of think they'll be all right. And I kind of thought they did still seem to have enough about them. But
I thought after when they made a few subs, I thought they looked a little bit better second half. But I don't know, defensively they look poor. I don't know where they're going to get the goals from. I don't know. Tyler Walker looked like a lost kid up front. I didn't even realise till halfway through the game, halfway through the first half, that it was actually Walker. I thought it was a kid they just brought on to play up front on his own.
Can I ask Hucks about Gyökeres, who came on in the second half? looked, obviously missed that good chance at the start of the half, but he looked like his end product wasn't great, but he looked like properly gave Max a difficult time. And I didn't really understand why he wasn't starting. He looked really good for them.
I'm not sure, but apparently there was some kind of falling out before the game. That's what I kind of heard. That's why.
Oh, really?
Because they made 4 changes, didn't they, from the team that played in the week, and basically changed the complete forward line. So I'm sure it was something to do with that. But
okay,
you know,
Mark Robbins said he was sort of resting a few, but yeah, the immediate reaction was that it was some sort of weird. I think Gyökeres and Gooden were considered their sort of 2 best players so far this season. So there we go. You only play what's in front of you. One thing we're not going to talk about is VAR. It was kind of quite funny watching it from afar. But I mean, dear Lord, 2 of those decisions of the weekend were borderline horrific.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of
Sorry,
it.
that's you know how I feel.
No, you can't. But then go on, Hucks.
It's that bad that they're going to have to do something, aren't they? They're going to have to streamline it. They're going to have to get ex-players in there to look at stuff, because some of the stuff that's going on is borderline ridiculous.
It could be a job, Hucks. If the PGMOL, I think it is, rang you up, Darren, we need players involved in here to help run VAR.
Then decisions are easy.
He
to see.
would fancy it.
Yeah, well, the decisions are easy to see. It takes you 10 seconds to see that. The West Ham one was borderline ridiculous. Keepers hardly touched him. The keeper's rolling around like he's been shot in the back of the head.
I can't, but I genuinely like that. You're like, how have you can't, you're watching it. I saw it for the first time. I went, oh no, because you're like, you can't possibly make that. You wouldn't believe that you can make that decision. And then the defense for the Newcastle one appears to be that the VAR didn't actually look to see if whoever the Newcastle player was actually pushed, even though he suddenly comes flying out of the air at a funny angle. But
why do you need another referee to make a subjective decision? Just have it for offsides, for goals, for things that are black and white. You know whether they're right or they're wrong, and otherwise leave it alone. Like I just don't see why having, clearly the issue is not the referee didn't see it well enough. It's that they just don't get the decisions right as we would see it. So I just think, and my biggest gripe against the whole thing is it ruins the matchday experience. I'm enjoying the Championship a lot more without it, but I've been banging this drum a lot. So
we do love the drums. Maddie, anything that you don't want to talk about?
Oh, definitely. Did you see who won Goal of the Month today?
For us?
Of course.
The mighty Jakob Sørensen. But we don't need to talk about it. We all know how good a goal it was.
Oh, what a goal. What a goal it was. Let's hope he's not too
celebrated
far
live in my lecture.
Coming back. Is that right?
We definitely don't need to talk about his injury, because it's tough. Don't get me started. It's tough.
No. Hopefully he or some other left back will be back soon. As Jason Stiles says, not going to talk about VAR, guys. Yep, exactly. We didn't talk about VAR. That was good. I think we managed that. Oh, the only other thing I've got on my list not to talk about is Ipswich. Don't know why that's written here, but I mean,
top of the league.
I do fear this might be the year that they actually emerge. But we're not going to talk about it, so that's okay. Which means we can move on to any topics and things and bits and bobs we've got. Steve, what did you pick up on?
Well, this is what I didn't want to talk about, but Emma Shreve has stolen my thunder. The drum, yes or no? I mean, I don't know. I'm at the wrong end of the ground. I couldn't even see the guy. I don't know. Maddie, you in a better spot than me? And what the hell was going on?
It's a funny, stupid story. Obviously, I get to the ground stupidly early to do the flags, and the stewards were all in a foul mood. I mean, not that they're in a great mood anyway, but they were all banging on about the SAG and about safety stuff. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And then, it gets to the end, and one of the stewards comes up to me and he goes, we've got a drum in today. What? They finally caved to City Elite? Oh, no. It's a professional drummer employed by the club who can only drum at certain points, who is on a platform where he can't see what's going on the pitch. So you can imagine the backlash that they're getting from City Elite. All of them going, oh, we've been asking for a drum for months, and now you've just brought in some random guy. And yeah, he can only drum, I think it was like corners and free kicks. So if he's drumming at strange points, it's because he's got a mandate about when he can and can't drum. So the stewards are fuming. They hate it. But, I mean, if he was actually allowed some freedom, it might be all right. But it's in such a bad position
Why is
It's there for the away fans.
Why is he not allowed to watch the game at the same time?
Or
is that just
no
a
idea.
coincidence?
I can't help but think in like a conspiracy theory ploy that they've put the drummer there next to the away fans with a terrible view to say, look, you have the drum, it doesn't work. Stop asking us for a drum. But that's just speculation, because surely they can't have purposely put him like that. Like, they can't have thought, wow, we've got a drum. We're paying this guy to come in a drum. We're going to stick him here behind a pillar. So
could you not actually see? You couldn't actually see the game. He was.
I don't think he could see much of it.
No, when he first emerged, I was like, I recorded a quick, very short video of it, and then I watched it back, and I was like, no, he literally is behind the post, and it's like the big toilet
he's
roll
where we
post
keep
with
the
screen.
flags. So they've moved everything around down there. They've stuck the flags behind fences, and they've built this platform. And I don't think he can see much. You know, he's not a fantastic view down there anyway. So if he can see anything, he might be able to make out the vague motions of the flow of play. But I'm interested to see if he'll be there for the next one, because that was not a fantastic experiment.
Well, we can say, obviously, we haven't got anyone available live from the club to come on and tell us what the thinking is, or what the actual, club stance is on it. Maybe they'll speak to me over the course of the week, and I can share that with everyone next week. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see what happens with the drummer, whoever it is. I wonder who it is.
Craig Brooks has said, "Who needs a drum? Just get Onel warming up when the chants start." It did seem Onel did a better job of getting the crowd going than the fella behind the toilet roll.
Genuinely reckon you could probably stick a drum in the corner while he was warming up, and he'd probably start hitting it. And just do both jobs at the same time. I could definitely see that happening. David Stebbings Tro says, Hucks, you were and still my favourite all-time Norwich player. You are a legend. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bit of Hucks love. Steve Pummel asks, is this actually live? Is that a compliment? I don't know if it is. Yes, Steve. This is genuinely us just thinking on our feet. What else have we got here? Did you have any other ones, Steve? That well, you have a look. I've got one. Gerald Taylor, does Hucks have a canary tattoo?
No.
I think you're a bit too cool for school, aren't you?
No, I've got tattoos, but I ain't got a canary one. Surely you don't need a tattoo for you do it on the pitch, don't you? That's it.
This is it. Nothing to prove. And there's one here. Oh, also from Gerard. Is the championship fair considering our parachute payments, which I guess sort of taps into the fact that it does look so lopsided. But I can't help feeling that the parachute payments are just sort of maybe confining the problem to the championship, and if they go, then the problem will just appear somewhere else because the top of the Premier League is so good.
Yeah, I mean the parachute payments is part of a bigger issue, but none of it's fair. I mean, Hucks has already made the point. When we go up to the Premier League next season, the players who City have got on the bench will be much, much, much better than the ones who we've got out on the pitch. So none of it's fair, and it is a bit of a shame in a way to see that the three relegated teams are all up there already, even though we're obviously benefiting from it quite heavily. But yeah, I mean, we could talk for ages and ages about the financial issues in football, but I think the parachute payments is just a knock-on effect of it. That said, I don't think they'll be here for that much longer. I feel like they could be on borrowed time, the old parachute payments.
Indeed, which would make life interesting. Neil Luther, Michael, when is the podcast getting a drummer? Well, we'd have to stick him in the corner or her in the corner looking, behind a post. And they'd only be able to drum at specific moments.
You could get like Ringo Starr in to replace me when I bugger off to TalkSport, Michael.
This is true. Well, don't know if we're going to be able to afford it, but there we go. Right, we'll keep your comments and questions coming in. Those who are watching live, we'll get through a few more of those before the end. But I reckon it's probably a good time now to bring in a bit of Motti.
This is almost fantasy football.
I tell you what, the fantasy is. Only one game this week. I don't think there's going to be many of those. It's Burnley, a trip to Burnley, which is obviously hugely, hugely exciting. And I know, I mean it genuinely. What have you made of Burnley so far, Hucks? I mean, they're trying to do what Norwich are doing, but with a massive change, I guess, as well. Like, he's not going to have that much time, is he, Mr. Company, regardless of his name?
They should have I know they've lost a few players, but they should have a squad that's good enough to compete top end of the championship. So when they start firing on all cylinders, I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with. Will they get money to spend again in January? Probably. So, I think it's probably better to be playing them earlier than playing them later, if I'm going to be honest. Just get it out of the way. Especially up there. Hopefully the weather will still be okay. You don't want to go up there in the middle of winter when the pitch is knackered and it's snowing and stuff like that. So get the game out of the way. Go there, go and get a point, go and get 3 points, get yourself back home.
The interesting thing will be whether Burnley can play the way that Company wants them to play in the middle of winter up at Turf Moor, because no one's really tried it before. Certainly wasn't in Sean Dyche's plan. Have you seen much of Burnley, Maddie?
No, not really. Just they're not the sort of team you want to watch normally, are they? I saw something about how they were, whoever they played at the weekend, they were booing them for playing long ball, which is, a sign of how much things have changed at Burnley. Can you imagine Burnley fans booing the opposition for lumping it up the pitch? My God. But yeah, I think they were super excited over the summer to get Company in because, it's a could you change more from Sean Dyche, really? So they're a strange one, because you would expect with that many changes plus the managerial change, you would expect, a season of transition and maybe some time to gel. I don't think if they don't get promoted this season, they will sack Company. This is the club that employed Sean Dyche for almost a decade, so I'm not sure they'll be that trigger happy. They might say, okay, we see what you're doing and we see that you've got a plan. So I could see them being a bit Farker first season-esque. But yeah, I mean, it's the first real test, obviously. I think everyone knows that we're going to go away, and after Friday, we'll probably have a much better idea of where Norwich are, because, like we've said, the Championship this season, the quality is pretty dire. I mean, we've been pretty dire at times, and we're second in the league. So, it's a strange one, but I think it'll be a fairly even contest. I think both teams are going to be it's going to be a case of nerves. I think there's going to be, a bit of nervousness because it's too early for it to be like a promotion clash. But, these are two teams that know each other quite well. We've been up in the Premier League at the same time as them, and we both know where we're coming from and what we're aiming for. So it's the first big test for both of us. So I think it's going to be a really interesting one.
There's definitely a bit of familiarity there, and I have to say I'm looking forward to it, because it does feel like the first proper game of the season, rather than just sort of going through some fixtures and seeing what we get on the other side of it. Steve, Adam has asked, who do we start up top against Burnley? Nice problem for Dino. What would you do, Steve?
I think I've already sort of laid my cards on the table insofar as I would definitely have Pukki and Sargent out there. I think Todd probably starts, and then it's probably a choice between Ramsey and Dowell. I mean, they're both. Yeah, I sort of the kind of much of muchness in that they're both capable of doing really good things, and kind of have done already this season at times, but also can sort of drift out of games a little bit. I suppose if you're putting me on the spot, why not stick with Ramsey? I mean, we won 3-0, so I don't actually think there's a huge need to change the team. Dowell did quite well when he came on. What's going to be interesting, though, is that we're playing a team that we might actually play a back four. Like we've basically only played back threes this season, it feels like, against teams. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see whether anything changes with us as far as that goes. Don't know whether teams have been changing in order to face us, or whether that's just something that they were doing anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think offer me a point in this one and I will take it. I think it's going to be one of the toughest away games this season. So anything more than that, and then it's really time to get excited, I think.
It's been very fashionable back three. I think a lot of teams are just playing back threes at the moment. I think Hull actually, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they switched to a back four at the start against Norwich, and then switched back to their normal formation.
Switched at the start. Like
as
before the whistle was playing, they just
quick
shifted
switch
around.
It was like a first down.
It's quite surprising that so many teams are playing a back three, because it's something you have to work at a lot in training. Because when you're growing up as kids and as you get older and older, not many teams play a back three. So I think it's detrimental to a lot of teams playing a back three. I really do. I think it's quite easy to play against, because you just get so much space out wide. It's interesting that teams continue to try and play free against us, but
don't think they'll come up against it on Saturday or Friday night even. I mean, the shape had a nice balance to it on Saturday. I thought Hucks and Aaron Ramsey, who we haven't actually mentioned yet, which is probably a slight dereliction, was very good playing a bit more centrally. And he's created two very good goals, or certainly played a big part in two very good goals. The second goal on Saturday and the winner at Sunderland too. So we're starting to see properly what he can add.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was his best game by miles. I've been a little bit unconvinced by him, if I'm going to be honest, until then. I know he set up a goal early on in the season, but he's been in and out. He hasn't really. I don't think he's shown everybody what he's all about. And I think on Saturday, everyone got to see a bit more about what he can offer. But the problem is we've got that many attacking players that you've got to get a place in the team, or you might not get back in it. So, I think Dean Smith already said that you've got to produce in them forward areas, because he's got riches everywhere. So it's up to the place getting the team and staying in the team.
Which I did want to ask you a bit about Todd, if I may, Hucks, because what have you made of? He's sort of been. He looks much more closer to the player that was at the club 2 years ago, without maybe quite, delivering the assists and goals or whichever. And we're kind of in a curious moment, really, because this is the last year of his contract. We don't normally want players to be in that position, so it does feel like a really interesting time with him.
Yeah, it does. I think what he's done, first off, I think he's come back. It could have gone the other way, couldn't it? It could have gone the other way, where he's come back and literally looked how he looked last season, and then he's a player that you've got to get rid of. But I think he's worked hard. He looks fit. He looks strong. But he's still got to have a bit more impact in the final third. I spoke to him before the start of the season, and I just said, Toddy, nobody remembers the little flicks, and they remember you scoring goals. Maybe you're scoring against Man City. Maybe you're scoring, Wilders in the top corner of your left foot. They remember the assists. So, as a forward player, he has got to influence the game more in the final third, and he can do, because we all know he can do it. And I think we're seeing bits of it, but I still think he can take games by the scruff of the neck and be the most influential player. At the minute, he's on the periphery of the game. I want to see him take the game by the scruff of the neck and be that player. That's what I want to see. I want him to be our star man. And he can do it. He's just got to do it a bit more often.
I sort of feel like it's coming for Todd, or because I completely agree, with Hucks, that we've already seen a completely different player this season. Off the ball, and his pressing is just complete night and day from where it was last year. And he's trying things, and it's just not quite working. That said, great pass for the third goal on Saturday. Yes. I thought, into Sargent. But I kind of think he's too when his mind's in the right places, it seems to be, he's too talented for it not to come off. And I actually think that's another ceiling that we can reach, is how good can we be when Todd's on it. And I do sort of feel like he'll find that form before the end of the season, maybe on Friday, who knows.
That is a good thing about a game on Friday. Those are the games that they can be completely forgotten, but they can definitely be defining games if you deliver something special, and that goes for any player on the pitch that night.
And he was the subject of a Tim Key poem this week, so
he was. That's exciting indeed. I should have read it out, shouldn't we? It was wonderful prose.
You can still do a live performance of it, like beatnik poetry.
I could. I don't know.
Don't tempt him, Maddie.
No, I will. Yeah, definitely. I think one time on Mustard TV, I just read the lyrics to "On the Ball City."
Next time Todd scores, you've got to perform this poem on the podcast.
Okay, we could. Oh, no, I'm quite tempted. Yes, okay. No, that's a good. Yeah, so we'll remember that. Tim Key poem next time. Sweet. Todd scores. So we'll do that definitely. Are you making the trip up on Friday night, Maddie, or are you gonna be able to watch it down the pub?
There's no way you could tempt me back to Burnley. I've been having this discussion with so many people. Do you fancy Burnley? Do you fancy Burnley? No. I mean, even if I wasn't at university on a Friday, can you imagine the trip? It's a 8:00 kickoff on a Friday, and whenever it is, it's hell. Burnley is a bad enough place to travel to at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. The cricket ground is fine, the fans are fine, but my God, the journey there and back, no, not a chance. Even if the club said, "Oh, if you go, I'll pay your season ticket for you next season," nothing could tempt me up there. It's going to be on the sofa with my Man United fan dad sitting next to me, booing every time we make a good pass. So, yeah, I'd much rather that. Call me a fickle fan or whatever, but Friday night against Burnley, that's a sofa or a pub game all over it.
So it sounds like it'd be a good live stream, you and your dad watching that game.
I don't think so. We managed to convince everyone else to leave the living room when we're watching football together, so I don't think anyone would want to watch it.
Well, Sky moved the kickoff so everyone could watch it live, I'm sure. So that's what will no doubt happen. Should we? It's a big game. So predictions, Steve, go on. What do you reckon will happen?
Let's say draw. I'm not. Yeah, I have a feel. It's gonna. The interesting thing about this game. Well, there's lots of interesting things, but whether we can raise our game for it, because I do sort of feel like we need to a little bit. Like this will be a test in the way that none of the other games have been, even close to being. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see that, and it'll be a big sign if we can come away with it that we've got the mettle for it. So it's a long answer to your question. 1-1. That's what I'll say.
Good thing, Hucks, is it does feel like Norwich have got those gears in them. So yeah, what do you reckon?
2-2. Excellent away point.
Take it. Look at that. That was efficient.
Take it. Get back on the bus or the plane. Get yourself back home.
That's the way to do it. Maddie?
I'm going to go for the typical 2-1, I think. I don't think we've got enough to keep them out, but I think we've got plenty to go against them. So I reckon, she's got to pick the goal scorers now. Going to go for Sargent to give the in vogue answer. And then I reckon Sam Byram. Why not? He had so many chances in the Premier League that first time around. Sam Byram to get his first Norwich goal.
Yeah, it'd be a good place for him to get it, wouldn't it? Burnley away, that sort of feels like the sort of place where he would get his first Norwich goal.
Sam
like
Byram
this totally random match on a Friday. That's got Sam Byram written all over it. Go on,
6 wins on the spin. I love it. What a different place we're all in. A slight confession. It wasn't until I was watching the highlights on ITV, whatever channel it was, that I realised West Brom actually equalised against Burnley. I just assumed they'd won 1-0 at West Brom. So yeah, hopefully they'll at least concede to Norwich in a meaningful way on Friday night.
What do you think the score's going to be, Michael?
Oh, you don't need to ask me that. I don't,
Do I not? Oh, we've all given our answers.
I know you.
He's asked you now. You have to answer.
That's my prerogative. Yeah, I like to think that they have it in them to prove that they've got the gears to go into, and maybe they'll be slightly more streetwise on the evening. So I don't think they'll lose. Can I say that?
Yeah, that'll do.
All right, and no one hurt.
That's a cop out.
No one, yeah, kiss it completely. But then you named your goal scorers, Maddie, so that was up to you. So that's all. It's all good. Right, any more questions? And then I reckon we wrap up. Let's have a look through here.
Neil Luther has asked if Hucks scored any perfect hat tricks.
Yeah.
That would mean I'd have to head the ball, wouldn't it?
Which means you have to head the ball into the goal.
Did you score any headed goals?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, scored a few. Surprisingly, but
not as part of
not
trick,
perfect hat trick. I think I've scored left, right penalties, but not perfect hat trick.
It's more than 3 of us. Yeah. Henry Todd, I think the drum highlighted the lack of creative chance we have at the moment. I see some good ideas go NCFC viral, but never sung. Would love to hear the Adamida's good, Ebenezer good. I don't know what song that is, but yes, more creative chance. Everyone.
That's a great one. I've not heard that. Yeah, that would.
How does that go? How would that go?
Sing it, Steve.
Well, the song does advocate the use of drugs, which I'm not going to do, but it goes E's are good, Ebenezer good. That one. It's
Adamida's good. Yeah,
he does good. He was good. Adamida's good.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear that. I'm not going to start it, but
there was a good we've got a good Josh Sargent chant, I suppose, but there was a creative one I passed on Instagram with he's our American boy, which I think is the Leeds fans are using that for Anderson, is it? Anyway, so yeah, well there we go. Get your thinking caps on, everyone. What else do we have? Display calibration. Michael et al. Stuart Webber took a lot of criticism, much rightly so, for last season's dismal signings. As one who already loves Marcelino Nunez, or Nacho, as everyone started calling him, shouldn't he now also receive due credit for that?
Let's maybe give it half a season before we can start saying that signings are really good or really bad. I mean, for the same reasons, I wouldn't necessarily say Sarah's been a good signing yet, but it'd be far too early to say that he's not going to be a good player for us. But I love Nunez too, but it's early days, right?
I must admit, when when Dean Smith started just calling him Nacho, I just assumed he got his name wrong. But I think Neil Adams also called him Nacho in a video, so in his Insights video. So at that point, I was like, oh no, this must be an actual thing.
Where's that come from, Michael, or is it just something you picked up?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess
Have to ask Adam Brandon, he'll know.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Nacho's a South American in people in Norwich's heads, so therefore they call him Nacho.
Bit of cultural appropriation there.
Exactly. I'm sure it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Right, I think that's wrapped up all those. Thank you for so many comments and questions. Awesome. But I think that's it, isn't it? For another On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that has been trying to stitch its own Norwich City armchair together for years. If you're yet to do so, make sure you subscribe via your podcast player of choice. The pod is available free for everyone on your usual player, and we stream the recording of the podcast live in video form on my social media channels. Have a search, and I'm sure you'll find them. Ratings and reviews, wherever prompted, are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or topic proposals, sling me a direct message on Twitter. The handle is at Michael J. Bailey. As for this evening, a big thank you to our guests this evening. Maddie, thank you so much. Enjoy the game on Friday.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers, everyone.
I hope your dad enjoys it too, but maybe not so much.
I hope he doesn't.
Hucks, thank you as always. You legend, you.
No problem.
Steve, muy bien. I've decided to go Spanish.
Thank you. I don't do Spanish, so I can't answer in kind. But thanks, and thank you, everyone.
Although I think it's just muy bien is very good. So that doesn't
Gracias.
really make any
That's
sense.
Spanish, isn't it?
Muy bien.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. Good. Yeah, I'm just going to start calling you Nacho from here on in. Thanks as always. See you next week, I reckon. We'll be back next Monday for another edition of On the Ball and a fresh bout of Canaries capers, probably at a similar level of quality as this, as we review the Burnley game and more. Until then, never mind the danger. And there we go. The pod is done. Thank you all so much for joining us this fine evening. Hope you really enjoyed it, obviously. I'll be at Turf Moor on Friday night, so keep an eye out for a video verdict then. And what else? Oh, I'll be at the presser on Thursday. There we go. But other than that, thanks all for so many comments and questions. Much appreciated as always. And we will see you next week. Have fun. Enjoy the lack of a midweek game. Do something exciting. Buy a burger. See you later.